emotions play a huge role in our children's transition, boys or girls. So the more that you can maintain a consistent routine and structure, then it's not like you got to get back into it once the school year starts.
What is up, everybody? It's Ed Gow Jr. from Dad Central, and I'm speaking with someone. He's enjoying his summer. I want to make sure he's enjoying his summer.
Drew Solon, Dad Central, and yes, I always enjoy summer just because the weather's good. Honestly, not a fan of the
Good.
cold, so summer is great.
Excellent, excellent. Well, today, let's get into it. We're going to be talking today about fatherhood hacks for back to school success. And today we're going to chat about helping dads reduce stress and create a smooth, positive transition into the new school by focusing on routines, emotional support, and practical planning. So, the three things we're going to chat about today are understanding emotional shift, practical prep that sets the tone, and finally, dad set the emotional climate. So, Drew, back to school. We don't want to push the summer away, but it's coming. I already am hearing ads about it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, back to school is and can be a stressful time for everyone in the family. I think about this year, my two daughters, Jada and Michaela, are transitioning from their grade six school, French immersion, to now a grade 7, 8 French immersion school, which is actually connected to a high school. So that's a big transition. Sophia is transitioning from a smaller private high school into now a Catholic high school that's one of the biggest in the city. So that's a significant transition. Eliana will be transitioning to school the first time, not this fall, but the next fall. So, I mean, at least just personally, we've experienced some transitions. We have going transitions coming up now, but I have found it to be sometimes challenging through the years, especially if it's like a first time transition to school. Even that transition to daycare, there's some similarities there, right? And so it takes a lot sometimes. And so having a good conversation, having clear guidelines and some practical pieces can help everyone in the family navigate the transition better.
Good stuff. So, just want to remind before we get into it, you're watching Dad Central Parenting Podcast to reduce stress and build confidence in fatherhood. And as always, our show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man because when men care for themselves and others, there is a positive impact. So, as we kick it off with our first conversation piece, understanding the emotional shift. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, as I said just a few minutes ago, it can be challenging. And as a dad, I'm very maybe pragmatic and practical. It's like whatever, you just go to school. Like I had a bunch of transitions when I was a kid. I didn't think much about it. I didn't feel much anxiety about it, at least not that I can recall. And I'm very much like, this is what's next. Just go to it. I don't know if other dads are like that, but I have learned moms definitely don't necessarily approach it like that. And the kids themselves can experience varying levels of worry, fear, struggle to adapt if they haven't had much of a routine throughout the summer to an actual structure of the school year, or sometimes just with all the new things that are coming at them, overwhelm. There's friend issues, especially if you're going to a new school. There's potential bullying. There's potentially issues with teachers. There's a lot really that can go on in this process. So the recognizing for the pragmatic people like me, emotions play a huge role in our children's transition, boys or girls. And of course, they play a huge role in your parents or co-parents situation as far as that. And so as dads, we can play a significant positive addition to that, or we can actually unwittingly, or sometimes because of our own stuff, make it worse. So those are some thoughts that I have. What about you? And
Yeah, I think some of the things that come up is again the changes in routine, like you had mentioned in your family. some of your kids are going from one level of school to another level of school, and that can be challenging in itself. New friends, as you mentioned, also different teachers, different routine, and that's also it's a different routine for our dads and also for our kids also. And having something in place that reduces the overwhelm. So your summertime, a lot of free time, etc., and then wham, there could be initial overwhelm. So for me, I suggest that for dads, as best as possible, staying calm, being supportive, and being tuned in. And also very, very key is ask your child how they feel about going back. Listen and listen more than you talk. But I think that's a really good question for our dads, fathers, and male caregivers. Ask your child how they're feeling about going back to school.
Yeah, I will just go back to the point of when you are pragmatic and you're not thinking much about it, that's when we can overlook things. And so, this is why being intentional and asking that question can give you the pause, but also give your child an opportunity to share with you what they may be experiencing, which then can open our eyes to, oh, wow, I would have never thought of that. That seems to be something that's pretty big for them. And so now you have an opportunity to meet them in their overwhelm, anxiety, fear, whatever it is, and then be able to provide some sort of support in that moment because you've opened the door to them sharing with you. So I think that's a really powerful and important. So being intentional with that question, I think is crucial.
Good stuff. Let's look at our second point that we're going to chat about today, practical prep time that sets the tone. And I think a good go to person when it comes to practical prep time is Drew, because as you've heard, he has a lot going on with kids in school. So, what are your thoughts on practical prep time, being pragmatic and being practical when it comes to prep time?
Well, to me, and this aligns with the structure, A type that I have is, routines actually provide security for children. And so, our children typically resist the routine, especially when they feel like the routine's not needed. So weekends or summertime, that like, well, no, I still keep the as much as possible. Want to keep them on the same routine because routines create positive habits. They also create expectations and make it easier in terms of, if they want to do things outside of the routine. Well, I mean, they typically once they get it, they'll just do it, and there's less resistance, there's less pushback. And so the more that you can maintain a consistent routine and structure, then it's not like you got to get back into it once the school year starts. So it's just kind of, this is what you do. I think that's really irrelevant. So for me, I'm big on bedtimes. I'm big on sort of when you get up in the morning, what's your typical routine in the morning, so that you know and get yourself ready. You're not just literally a sloth on the couch till like 1:30 in the afternoon. That's just not, doesn't happen for me, and it doesn't, it's something that I think is helpful or positive for children. Hey, when they go to university and if they choose that, fine, they can choose that, but not here. We're not building that type of routine. And so the other thing is around for me, we're going to talk more about this, but screens. Screens are a tool, but they should, like any tool, they should be used appropriately and for the right reason. And so, carte blanche, all that other stuff that presents some challenges because that's not the way it should be during the school year as well. So, I think those are important. You got a couple of things you can share as well, Ed?
Yeah, I would say I would suggest that you make the time to visit the school and meet their teacher. I think that's a really good thing because there are a number of occasions where I've had dads, fathers, milk givers, halfway through the school year, something comes up and they have to meet the teacher. I suggest you be proactive and as early as possible during this, well, teachers start coming back late August. Generally, if you can meet them then, that'd be great. But as early as possible in the school year, take the time, meet that school, even if the principal or their teacher, the more people you get to meet on staff, the better. Ideally, you want to meet your child's teacher and, if possible, the principal. That'd be great. And I think also, too, as you've mentioned, talking through expectations and schedules. Start, don't wait for September to come. Start talking about it before September. So expectations and alignment is there for that first day of school. And when you do that too, it builds prep time with your child and it reduces resistance. You don't want to be having to do it. You want to be proactive, not reactive when it comes to expectations and schedules. That's what I'm sharing right now. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, the thought that I have is, the more that dads are involved, and the better it is for the kids, and the better it is for their academic improvement. We've got research that validates that. But the one thought around, talking through the expectations and the schedule is, it doesn't have to be heavy, involved, or intense. Just more like, hey, the fall's coming up, and I think of Jordan. Jordan, you're going to have flag football on Saturdays. You're going to have baseball practice on Wednesdays. You're going to have this. So it's really important that we have a good idea. Like, what are you thinking is going to be the hardest part of this schedule for you? And just involving him in the process. So that's not heavy. It's just simple. That's a fact. And so don't get caught up on that, is what my comment would be. And maybe the only other thing I'd say is, I remember when it was back to school time, you tend to do a little bit of shopping, whether it's for back to school clothes or whether it's for back to school supplies. I actually enjoyed like the supply stuff. I'd be like, oh, what kind of binders, what kind of pens, what kind of, it was kind of fun. And so to me, that's an opportunity for dads as well. Like, can you get involved with the back to school supply stuff, whether it's maybe you're not going out and buying it with them, but maybe they bought it and maybe you're just helping them organize, or you're just not even helping them, you're just being there with them. So it's an opportunity just to convert this experience into bonding time and creating some positive memories.
Nice, nice, nice. Our final segment, we're going to talk about dads setting the emotional climate. And that's always important, but especially during back to school time, it's very critical. So, what are your thoughts? Setting that emotional climate as a dad.
Yeah, I think it's true all the time, but especially so when emotions can run high, as we talked about in the first part of this conversation. And so, how calm or how stressed we are, our children pick it up. If we go back to Dr. Stuart Shanker and his, great podcast we did with him a couple years ago about, how children have Wi-Fi, right? We have this limbic resonance where if we're stressed, our children, whether you're actually consciously saying anything, they feel that stress because of that limbic system. And so the reality is the more that we can manage our own emotions, regulate our own emotions, and really you can only regulate your own. And if you have a partner who is highly stressed, you obviously can't regulate their emotions, but you can help co-regulate, or you can help support them so that they can learn to regulate their emotions as well, because that's going to then impact the kids. And so for me, our job is to set that tone emotionally as best we can. And if that means we need to, build things into our routine that helps us reduce our stress, then dads, I think you should focus on that. If that's an extra, moms might not like this, but if that's an extra round of golf, on a Friday afternoon, or extra round of golf on the Sunday morning before it's kind of like school's coming up, then do that and come back refreshed though. Not fatigued, not worn out, come back refreshed, do something that's actually going to refill you or help remove some of the burden that you might be carrying. That's kind of my thoughts. Yeah. How about you, Ed?
Uh, I believe and fully support what you're saying, but I just want to add on things like having a morning mindset as a dad. Have I really suggest and go hard on, if you can in the morning, have that calm time before you get your day started, or sometime during the day, have that 15 minutes to yourself, especially if you can do it during the morning time. And also, I think if you're, whether you're working from home, whether you're not working, but if you are doing work or at work, before you get back in the evening, or whether it's working at home or not, have that time to get that mindset to go into the evening. Are you in the right mindset when your kids come home from school? You know, Definitely at the front end, it's important, but also at the back end. And you want to make sure that you're available after school to debrief with your kids and connect with them. And people say, well, how do you do that? Well, a simple thing is, what was one good thing that happened at school today? Or what was one good thing that happened during the day? And you don't have to wait for the school year to happen. You can start doing that now and set that pattern up. Set that expectation up. So it's not just happening during the school year, it happens all the time. All the time. Anything you want to add, Drew?
Yeah, I love that last point. Reminds me of something that I've been doing for a while. If I pick the kids up for school or if I happen to see them, I'm always saying, rather than asking them, I say, "Tell me something good." Right? Tell me something good about your day. And so, they're used to getting that. And it's there was a radio station I listened to. I think it was K Love that had that segment. Right? Tell us something good, and people would just call in and give like a positive thing that's happened to them. And so I just borrowed that, and I've been using it for years with the kids. So. Uh, I find sometimes they're in a talkative mood, other times they're not. So it's that's don't stress whether they fully open up to you right away or not. Just the fact that you consistently put something out there and showing that you're interested. One day they may surprise you, and all of a sudden, they empty their proverbial backpack on you because they're like they've had all this stuff going on. But the fact is that you're there, you're consistent, and knowing that you care about them, and that you're available when the time comes. That is truly, I think, what matters the most when it comes to this. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's it for this episode. Just do a little recap, the 3 points we chatted about today in regards to back to school hacks for the dad, fatherhood hacks to back to school success. Number one, understanding the emotional shift. Next up, practical prep that sets the tone. And then finally, you as a dad, you set the emotional climate. So, Drew, do we have a resource for our dads?
Yeah, I think a great resource for dads because back to school gets busy. Sometimes not so much if you're not front and center, if your partner is doing more of the school stuff. But the reality is that life gets busy in the fall as much as it does get a routine. And so, our Fatherhood Fundamentals email course, it's great. One, it helps you with the right mindset. Two, it gives you very practical tools on prioritizing and managing your schedule. And then finally, it gives you great information about how do you step into your value as a role of a father. So that's our resource.
Excellent. And I'll just add on to that on behalf of Drew and myself, we have a dad challenge. So, our dad challenge, if you're listening to this, choose one thing this week to make back to school easier for your child. So, maybe suggestions starting bedtime earlier, prep lunches together, plan a fun back to school dinner. Just one thing. So, as always, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Ed, I really want to add that, if you've been listening to the show, would really love for you to take a moment to give us a review on Apple or rate the show on Spotify, because the more that you're finding value and others can find the show as a result of it, the better it is for everyone. So our goal is to continue to uplift and impact fathers to be the best that they can be. And so if you have found value, please take a moment to do that. We'd really appreciate it.
Good add on at the end. And as always, we say, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace and thank you for giving the most important thing, your time to listen to the show. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you soon. Be well.